Hello everybody, this is another review based on my latest LEGO Mania, The Wheel of Time book series. For those who haven't read the books, I will say that there are some spoilers, but I will be sure to give warning on the screen so you have a chance to hit the sound button. Even so, I do ask that anyone who knows what happens in this series not spoil anything in the comments. Sound good? Great. So, short version, evil minions are hunting three young men named Rand al'Thor, Matrim Cothan, and Perrin Aribara, hoping to stop them from fulfilling prophecies leading to the Dark One's defeat. But even if one of them fulfills a prophecy showing they are the one called the Dragon Reborn, there is still a chance that the magic that he holds within, tainted by the Dark One, will cause his fall into madness and the destruction of the world. A fit shelf friend to the Lord of the Rings, this series deserved to have some kind of tribute in LEGO form. I built 14 displays, but the two in this video are based on Book 3, The Dragon Reborn, and Book 4, The Shadow Rising. Book 3 shows a room of columns with two young men watching a third reach for a sword suspended in the air, and Book 4 shows a small encampment around a small fire at sunset. So, here are the books, and here are the builds. We are now moving into spoiler territory. Book 3 includes 6 minifigures. Starting from left to right, we have Matrim Cothan, Perrin Aribara, Rand al'Thor, then we have an Aiel, and then the Dark One, and the Tyrann Soldier. Basically a soldier who's from the city tier, but it's pronounced Tyrann later. It's really interesting, this book series. Lots of different words, lots of different ways to pronunciate things. Anyway, compared to the book cover, I was pretty happy with how my Rand minifigure turned out, with the colors and the accuracy of printing. Just kind of making him look noble. And while it's true that this picture kind of has like a bit more of like a... It could be a shadowed hand, but looking at it really close, I decided it was a glove. It was a glove. And so that's why he has this brown glove here. Matt's minifigure is pretty simple, and while not fully color accurate, I think you do get the idea of his garb. It looks like he's wearing like some lace and noble clothing, which is interesting considering the context of the book, but that's the way it goes. Although that is the face I would use, just so you can notice how he's a little amazed in that one, and it seems to work. Perrin was also pretty simple, and though it is a bit large, I do like how his axe is built. It's very similar to what is in the book. It's described as basically a crescent blade with a spike coming out of the back, and I think it does a pretty good job. I got this idea from Fast Lindy Rick. He's a really cool LEGO Wheel of Time artist. You should check him out on secondbrickfest.com. But yeah, that's Perrin. And also his shield, while technically this is the outside, I think it does replicate what is seen on the inside. Ishamael is based off of the character on the spine, and while it's true that his hood should be purple, the black is just to kind of get the idea of darkness, and it will come into effect later. I also gave him Palpatine's head rather than, say, Danos' head, mostly because of the yellow eyes, and it just seems to kind of match as close as it can get. This Aielman minifigure is more or less based off of the one on the back of the cover right there. He's also a pretty simple build. And he's created by Brick Warriors. They have a really cool website that you might want to add to your minifigures. But his head is one of the minifigures from the Batman series. That's why he has that little bit of a white sweatband. But I think it gets the idea across that they're a fierce people. This Tyrann Soldier is based off of this guy here. He's got like a bit of a mustache. And while the helmet isn't like conquistador, it was the closest I could get with what I had. It was either that or a Sean Connery, may he rest in peace, Lego hat piece from Indiana Jones. But he uses Boromir's head, so if I wanted to, I can also give him a angry expression, just like that. When it comes to like scenery and settings, I wanted to try to get like some form of detail, even if it's not fully scale accurate or whatever. But for instance, you have like these columns with like the little branching vine designs. Just kind of tried to replicate that. This side, obviously I'm not going to cut in half one of these pieces, so I just decided to use some maroon. And, you know, from a distance it's passable. It's passable. But then we also have this sword which is suspended by the column, even though in the book it's supposed to be suspended in the air. And yeah, I know it's scratched up, but this mold of sword is pretty exclusive. I think this came from like Lego Castle set or something. But it's pretty simple. Then we can turn it around and we can go to the back side. And the back has a big number 3, and it has a bit of a darkness cloud display, which I will show here in a minute. But pretty much, this is a very narrow, simple build. It just all connects by all these bricks. The siding is to give the edging of like a feeling of roundness, but I think it gets the point across that these are supposed to be really large columns, and it's all held up by this piece. And considering like how heavy this feels, it slides pretty well, and it doesn't really fall over if you don't shake it too hard. Like all my other sets that I built based on this design, these are all 18 by 18 studs. We have some nice tiling just to give it that look of smoothness. And here's just a little look at the bottom. Just a mishmash of a bunch of black bricks. The sides actually have some Technic pinholes, so that if you want to choose to attach these together, you can't onto one big display. It's pretty nice. But let me go into how the display actually works. Oh, and one more thing before I do that. I forgot to mention that these are built like with an odd number of studs. And that's kind of hard because Lego pieces tend to be very symmetrical, so 2x2 or 3x4. You don't really see many 5 plates, and so this was all pretty difficult to come up with, but it worked. So anyway, to display the figures, all you pretty much need to do is to just follow the book. That's always a pretty good start. But it looks like that Rand, who's right here, has his hand twisted slightly. It's moved back, somewhat shaded but still illuminated, even though lighting really doesn't matter as far as display. And then he just kind of fits underneath the sword because he's reaching for it. Will he be able to touch it though? Well, you'll probably need to read the book to figure that out. Then we have Perrin. And I should add that with Rand and Perrin's minifigures, if you've seen my Instagram account, I did change the heads, and I think they look pretty good. This is Ron Weasley from the Harry Potter series. But you have to reverse his axe, so then you can kind of get that sort of angle. Bend him forward, and then his head looks like it lines up about halfway with the column, so depending on how he's leaned forward, do that. And then with Matt, you get him on his scared face, and according to this, his arm is supposed to be down, and you can't see his other arm really, but if you want, you can slightly turn his head, and then line it up so it's not hidden behind Perrin's. And yeah, it's true, he's supposed to be taller and stuff, but, you know, it's not like Lego design knee pieces per se. But that's the front part, essentially. And I think it looks pretty good. Now this back piece is kind of just to kind of give the dioramic display look. Because while it's true that it looks like that Ishmael on the spine is kind of like appearing above Matt in the column, for the sake of this build, I just kind of wanted to have a bit of fun. So with Ishmael, I built this little darkness display stand so that he could kind of merge with the darkness but look like he's kind of coming out. And it's nothing too special, just a bunch of random bricks kind of combined to give a feeling of a flowing darkness. But you just attach him there and leave him in the middle. The reason I do that is because the dark one's like the source of all contention, in a sense. Then we have the Tyrann Soldier, again, based off of the one from the second one. So, pull out his sword. And because we want it to make it look like he's clashing with the Aiel, just kind of arch him forward like that. And then with the Aielman, just make him look like he's running forward a bit. Stick him there. And there you have it for Book 3. Moving on to Book 4. It includes 5 minifigures. Starting from left to right, we have an Aielman, Matrim Cothan, Randalthor, Egwene Elvire, and another Aielman. Aielman, gosh, I need to look up how it's pronounced correctly. So Rand has a mug. Wait a minute. Would this mug actually look better? I mean, it's not really a mug, but it's a butterbeer cup. Let's try it out, just for the heck of it. And I actually think it's more accurate. Yeah, definitely. A little nice and small. Anyway, Rand has a hairpiece with a red headband, even though it's blue in this one. I mostly chose this hairpiece, the Hercules hairpiece from the Disney minifigure series, because of the headband. And I think it looks pretty funny, but also looks pretty good. He's got a little short green cape, which is to represent his green coat that's draped over his shoulder. And then because, again, spoilers, he is the Dragon Reborn, I thought it was kind of neat to give him this little detail of having a white shirt with these dragons along the side. With Matt, we have his long bow, a bit of a concerned face, and then a red coat, or as close as I could get to a red coat, and then some tan pants. Now, I don't want to spark a debate on this, but this is who I believe is Egwene Elvire, Rand's friend, and quite frankly, I'm just kind of going off of the covers a little bit, because they've already done a Moraine, so it could be Moraine, could not be. So I just decided to go with Egwene, but I think that it matches pretty accurately. That knife should be a spoon, but you do with you can with what you got. And now that I think about it, this guy might not fully be an Ayuman. It could actually be a servant from Tyr, but I just decided to make it an Ayuman. But I think I got the expressions pretty good. And then we have the second Ayuman. You can't see him too much from the front, so I just chose the piece that would fit best. But nothing too special there. And here's a little bit of a side-by-side with the book cover again. This wagon is probably the only significant thing, because it doesn't stand up on its two wheels, like, necessarily, if I want to keep it nice and level. It's instead standing up by the use of a Technic piece underneath to kind of support it. So then you can just slide that in. And technically, it should be a four-wheel wagon, but when you're doing trick perspective, again, you do what you can with what you got. And that goes about there. I'm actually pretty proud of that little wagon. Just pretty simple with the window, trying to differentiate the color, because even though it looks like it could be somewhat the same color, I just kind of built according to what it was rather than, say, lighting. But we have some background here representing the rocks. And then we also have two horses. I don't have two brown horses, per se, if I'm going to build all 14. But with the ones that I had, I have the black one representing this one, and then this white one represents this gray one on the side. So we have that. Let's get the minifigures on. So with Rand, with his new cup, which I like a lot, he's probably the hardest to pose in this series, because you have to angle his hand, his leg, so that it's touching. And then he's got to be kind of laying against the steps. That's kind of what I see with the picture. So what you do is you just kind of slide his leg so it's balanced by the stud. It's very... If you were to hit this, he'd fall down pretty quick. But I believe that it does get the point across. Then we have this Ayuman, and he's supposed to go as close to the horse as he can, but a little behind the head. And while it's true that horses could be angled like that, for the sake of this build, I chose not to do that, because all of this tiling can be replaced with black bookends, but that's something I'll describe later. Then we have this guy. He just goes right here. Make him look like he's walking by at least a stud, because stud placement is very important to making a minifigure look like they're walking or running. And the studs are kind of like a way to measure. Then we have Egwene, and while she can't bend over like that, you can at least angle the knife into the pot. Just kind of make it look like she's stirring something. Then just line her up so that she is not in front of the Ayuman. In fact, actually, I think he needs to move up. There we go. And then she needs to go like here. There we go. You can kind of angle her forward if you want, but then we have finally Matrim Cawthon, and he just stands behind Rand like that. And there we have it. These are the two bookends that kind of represent Book 3 and Book 4. And here they are fulfilling that purpose. If you know what you guys think, do you like the builds? Do you think they're a bit clumsy? Because yes, you can be honest. I know that they definitely need work, but should I add anything? Or more importantly, should I add these to my project? Because my last project only consists of 4. You can check it out in another video. But anyway, that's it for now. May the light shine on you and grace favor your sword.